All right, continuing with part two, everybody, of exposing the sins Christian women get away with. And I will come back and do some videos of things that men do because some people get, a certain way. You know how some of y'all are. You know it. But this needs to be talked about because this ain't talked about enough. I think we talk about enough of what men do. It's all we've been talking about 2026 years. But anyways, let's jump back in the video. It's the second half of it. Here we go.
Because it's comfortable. What I need to do is I need to go back to God's word and see, is this really a characteristic befitting of a person of God, specifically a woman of God? And if it's not, which none of these things are that we talked about, then there needs to be some self-evaluation, because scripture is pretty clear that God makes those things plain to us and that no one has an excuse.
Yeah. Next up, envy. When a man is envious, when he's coveting things, he looks at his buddy's golf clubs and is like, ooh, those are better than mine. He's lusting after the actual thing. When a woman gets envious, she doesn't care about the thing. She cares about what the thing means. She doesn't want the stuff. She wants the status. Status has always been hugely important for a woman's survival, being the weaker sex. So nearly everything to women is a status game. Even when men play status games, they're typically not even doing it for themselves. Those guys are trying to get access to those women. And
That's deep. When you think about that, that goes back to Genesis. When he said, what was that, Genesis chapter, I forget which chapter, is it 3? But whenever the serpent was talking to Eve, he said, you won't surely die, for God knows when you eat of the fruit, your eyes will be open and you'll be like God, knowing good and evil. That's a status thing. Then the man went ahead after Eve did that because, well, the woman did that. I want the woman, so let me go ahead and do that too, so I can be with the woman. Goes back to that, whether people want to believe that or not. If you look at life, it really just proves the Bible. Like when people say, oh, you can't prove God exists and that the Bible's real, look at life, dude. Just look at life. Proves it. Just pay attention.
know this because, if you see guys who don't care about what women think, they don't care about status either. These are the guys who, will be perfectly fine with just a mattress, no bed frame sitting on the floor, a pile of clothes in the corner, and the PS5, and that's all they have to their name.
That goes back. I'm not going to use certain language on the video. I'm going to try not to do all that. It goes back to that Dave Chappelle joke. A man buys a house so he can get with the woman. If a man could get with a woman, I'll censor that, in a cardboard box, then he wouldn't buy a house. That's why a man buys a nice car. Oh, nice car you got. Gotcha. Just saying. That's why Well, we ain't gonna get into all that. Let's keep it pushing.
And girls are like, how do men live like this? It's because they don't care what you think. So that means that when women do envy, it looks a little different.
One way that
true.
women can express their envy is by disparaging the stuff that other people have. For example, a few of the things that you might hear a woman say or that women might say to each other is, oh my gosh, I remember hearing once a story from a girl who she was just like, oh my gosh, I just got engaged. And she showed her friend and her friend was like, oh, that's nice. It's not 10 carats, but I mean,
Wow.
it's still really pretty though, right? So stuff like that.
At least she had one.
At least she got one. Or, this one, her husband, I don't know about him.
Yeah, he
seems a little bit, he seems off.
Yeah.
That's exactly how they say it. Yeah.
That's such a diss.
Yeah, he seems, you know.
Yeah. I don't know, but I know.
I know.
Yeah. Envy plays out on social media.
The socials.
Yeah.
She looks at what her friends have got on their feeds or whatever influencer she's following. She looks at the stuff that they've got, and then she starts getting anxious about it. And that's primarily what contributes to the negging of her husband or her boyfriend wanting more.
Nagging or negging? Probably both.
I think it's nag. I don't know. I've heard negging before.
Negging is a different term.
Is it?
Negging is a thing where it's just like it is the tearing the other person down.
There's nagging and negging. That was like
To-
one step short of being racist.
Leave it in.
That's another thing too. Women will sabotage their own marriages to get out of it because there's something else that they want.
Yeah,
Like,
that
it
is
just-
like
yeah.
peak envy behavior.
Yeah.
Is, you know what? This other thing that this other person has is so much better than what I have. I just gotta go get it. So they'll go ruin their own marriage and then go ruin another person's marriage by stealing somebody else's husband.
Yeah.
And the church doesn't say nothing because, was the husband abusive? What's he doing?
He wasn't doing enough.
He wasn't doing enough. That's
Yeah.
a big one. If she's not just disparaging, she is straight up trying to ruin their reputation by gossiping about them. Because then if people are seeing that person that has what she wants in a negative light, then there's a little bit more room for everyone to covet her instead. So yeah.
Wow.
Envy, very closely related to our next genre of sin. Vengeance.
Oh gosh.
Forget them. Justice. One of the biggest ways that women get vengeance on men, on people in general, is false accusations. Women will falsely accuse people, usually men, in order to destroy their reputation and destroy their lives along with it. There's a study done by the US Air Force, which found that about 60% of SA accusations made by women are false and are most often motivated by spite or desire for revenge. If a man wants...
That's wild. What did he say, 60%? Y'all have to correct me in the comments. I thought he said 60%. That's a wild number. That actually just happened to a guy I know too. That's insane. That happened to my brother. He lost his job behind that. Girl lied, said that he was abusive and kidnapped her, but she was going to work this whole time she was supposedly kidnapped. I was like, what kidnapper lets you go to your job? Oh, girl, you got to still go make that money, but you better come home afterwards. Like, and that went on for how long? Like, how does someone lose their job behind that, and that there's no penalty for the person who lied? I mean, interesting. And the other guy that I was talking about, he was living with the girl, and I don't know what happened, and she claimed that, SA, like he said, that happened. Then he was supposed to go to court, got an attorney, cost $4,000 or $5,000 for the attorney, and she never even showed up. But then proceeded to go on Facebook saying that he did this and putting his whole name out there, his middle name included, saying he was, that's wild. Where's the accountability? There should be some sort of penalty for false accusations. There should be. But that's, so Satan's the god of this world, corrupt judicial system, legislative, executive, all the branches of government. I don't care.
Revenge, he will just go straight to you and punch you in the face. Women, being, again, more vulnerable, can't necessarily do that, so they'll wait you out. They will wait for years. They will hold a list of grudges against you, and they will wait for exactly the moment when you're weakest, and they will destroy what everyone else thinks about you. They'll lie to do it. Doesn't matter how it has to happen in her mind. She will end you. There's a funny video. I'll see if I can find it and put it in the edit. There's this video of this woman accusing a mailman of stalking her. It's absolutely ridiculous. Oh, yeah. Yes.
Stop stalking me, right? Don't ever stalk me again.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
Christian women do this too. It's just more covert. A lot of this stuff is
That's
just
wild.
hitting. It's
That's
women
wild.
hitting people where it would hurt them the most.
Yeah, and for Christian women, it's not necessarily as overt as,
They're committing a crime.
or digging her keys into the side of his pretty little souped up 4-wheel drive. There was another guy that I interviewed who talked about how this one girl was showing interest in him. They worked at a Christian organization together. And he was like, well, let's hang out. Let's go out somewhere and talk. And she freaked out for some reason, even though she was the one who was interested in him. And she ended up basically saying to the rest of the staff that he made her feel uncomfortable. and got him kicked out of his shift where he actually knew people, and he had to basically lose all of his friends at work and start over, with a different shift where he didn't know anybody. She did this multiple times, and the staff knew that she wasn't telling the truth about any of her like accusations of his weirdness, and they didn't care. They just accommodated her, and it ruined his time at this job.
And that's just her being petty. These days, pettiness is seen as something that's kind of cute and kind of quirky. Like, she's just a little bit petty. Or like, there's literally this one song that goes like P-E-T-T-Y, petty. Yeah, I'm petty. Like, it's treated as a quirk, but it's not fun.
Well, that comes back to the whole minimizing and downplaying thing. Most of what women do today that is actually a sin is normalized and downplayed by our culture. And we end up doing that as Christians as well, to the point that, yeah, of course, we don't think women sin. Why would we feel like we need to hold women accountable when we don't actually count any of their sins as sins anymore? But that does segue into things like you mentioned indirect punishments, things like silent treatment is a kind of a cliche trope of that. One that you mentioned that I thought was really interesting was encouraging other people to engage in the silent treatment to shut a person out of a group.
Yes. Growing up, even like a Christian school, if another girl, they felt like they spited them, even if they didn't, even if it was, ironically enough, something as simple as calling a friend out on their poor behavior, suddenly that friend would corral all of the other girls to pretend that she didn't exist. For a woman, that is devastating. And they know that. And so they try to hit other women exactly where it hurts, right in the reputation, right in the social standing, right in the right in the safety, right in the bubble.
Right in the safety. Oh, you got me.
So I've seen this happen, is where married women will flirt with other men or make comments about other men in front of their husband in order to make their husband feel bad about something. One example that I heard before was, wow, he looks really nice in that suit. Wait, no, I was just saying. Like,
plausible deniability.
Plausible deniability. Yeah, exactly.
It does make a little more sense why I've sort of gotten the heebie-jeebies around some married Christian women sometimes who laugh at my jokes a little bit louder than their husband's jokes and are just a little bit too nice to me. I've had that sense ever since my older brother, his first wife, would quite obviously flirt with me while they were married. I didn't think anything of it at the time because I was very young, very naive. I thought, they're two Christians, they're married, she's just being nice. There was one thing she said one time at a Christmas party. Someone said something like, wow, you seem to really like Matt a lot. And, why didn't you just marry him? And she said, well, I hadn't met him yet. I was like, oh, that's a red flag.
Your brother?
Yeah, they were divorced about a year later. She cheated on him, monkey branched, and, she already had another man. But after that, I've had this sort of sensitivity to Christian wives being a little bit too extra friendly with me.
Or even if they're not, sometimes it's just a matter of, my husband did something that I didn't like. Oh, there's a man here. There's an opportunity. Let me give my husband the hint that I'm not very happy with him and I have options.
Yeah. In general, basically, women will do things that look innocent on the surface, but they know it will make someone else suffer if they do.
Had to open up some blinds and realize it was kind of dark in here.
Do it. But when you were first talking to me about this, at first I thought it was a bit outlandish and a little bit weird. I was like, are girls really like that subterfugal? But then I remembered this one girl. I was interested in her. She was not interested in me at all. And so I made kind of a deal with her that, hey, I'm just not going to ask you out. It's fine, whatever. Because we had to be around each other. There was a church group thing. And so we're like, try to be friends and all of that. But then there was another girl that was very clearly interested in me. Then girl number one starts hanging around me a lot more. Moving in close to me, sitting next to me, doing all kinds of stuff, trying to initiate conversations with me while this other girl's around. And it ended up kind of scaring that other girl away because she thought there was something going on between the two of us. And I told that to another girl later, and she was like, oh, she girl gamed you. And I was like, wait, what? There's a term for this? Yeah, she girl gamed you. That's
like some Mean Girl stuff. That's why that movie's popular, because it's got truth in it. Not faith-based, but still behavior-based. and it is accurate.
Yeah, we do that. That was a total revelation for me.
You're sitting there like,
What?
why?
Why? I don't know exactly what a reason was.
That sounds a lot to me like, for a lot of women, when a man approaches them and she doesn't think that he's attractive, she sees that as an insult without him even saying anything. He won't say anything, he won't do anything. But in her mind, she's like, how dare he approach me?
Oh, so that
That's
could be
wild.
what it was.
Yeah, and
It's just
so-
like vengeance for an unattractive
Yeah,
man approaching you.
Yeah. So in her mind, there's a good chance that she thought she was a victim of your unattractiveness. Yeah.
That's
Oh,
wild.
Wow. I'm going to block him from this other girl
Yeah.
because he thought he was good enough for me. or
Yeah,
something
yeah.
like that.
It's like,
Who knows?
guys,
The overarching theme through all of these is that it is, of course, hidden behind layers of plausible deniability, as we've been seeing, you know, so that when someone tries to confront her about her revenge, she can step back and say, what do you mean?
what do you mean?
I'm not punishing anyone. I wasn't doing that for any reason at all. I'm a squeaky clean little angel. I had no idea that that was going to hurt you. Of course, she knew. And like I tell that story to this other girl, and she immediately, oh yeah, I know exactly what she was doing. They can spot it when the other girls are doing it. But there's something you said the other day. If you want to reveal a woman's sin, look at what she wanted to happen and look at what ended up happening, and subtract everything else in between.
Mhm.
Basically, just don't look at what anyone else did. Look at what she wanted, what she did, and then what the result was. And you will see how she was responsible for it. There's that story of Herodias in the New Testament, where Herod takes this woman, Herodias, to be his wife, even though that was his brother's wife. He was not supposed to do that. John the Baptist kept calling him out for that.
Yeah.
He didn't really care. He thought John was an interesting dude and would listen to him. Herodias hated him, and she wanted revenge. What she did was, well, it would seem that she sent her daughter to go dance in front of Herod while he was probably sloshed. And then Herod makes this stupid promise like, oh, I'll give you up to half of my kingdom. And her daughter comes back to mom and says, what should I ask for? Give me the head of John the Baptist. Now Herod's trapped. Oh, shoot. I have to honor my word in front of all these people. And Herodias kept her hands clean. She wasn't the one that gave the order to take his head off. But again, if you subtract all the steps between what she wanted, revenge against John, what she wanted was what she got.
That's how a lot of women actually get convicted in court, because there's so much plausible deniability. That is exactly how the courts have to look at the situation in order to get her behind bars.
There's another one that might fit in with the whole revenge theme. I wasn't sure where to put this one, but it's when women push their husbands until they snap at them.
I was also in the tears category.
Yeah, it's one of the ways that women end up getting their way. They will annoy their husband, nag him, push him, insult him, cut him down. Stuff that's small enough that it never rises to the level of like, oh, that's egregious and somebody needs to do something about it. Until eventually, it just, like that constant dripping, it builds up until he can't take it anymore and he snaps. Yeah, she might do this with like, you don't do enough of this around the house, criticizing his choices and his behaviors, or emasculating him in public, making rules for him that she herself would never follow if he made it for her. Like, oh, you want to buy this particular thing? You got to ask me first.
I got to check with the boss.
Yeah, I don't understand that one quite as much. I even have friends that will say this, like, yeah, I kind of want to get this thing, but I don't know if my wife will let me. What do you mean? You don't know if your wife will let you?
There's something to be said about talking about if it's wise, budget-wise.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's also like, okay, but does your wife always talk to you when she goes to the mall or when she buys something off of Amazon? Probably not.
Yeah, that's the other thing is, yeah, we'll get into this more, but there's a lot of women out there who it's just like, it's an Amazon package a day. But the man has to ask permission if he wants to buy anything. That doesn't make sense to me. Or you got to check with me before you hang out with the boys. Like,
that's a huge red flag.
Yeah, that's
the
real.
added bonus of this strategy is that because it's so incremental, like she pushes and here and a little bit there, what she's doing doesn't appear to be a serious sin. It's just under the radar enough that nobody ever feels like it should, it's just not worth making a fuss about it.
Yeah.
When that frustration builds up over time and the man finally gets sick of it and he snaps, it's usually gotten to the point where he explodes, can sometimes do stuff that you shouldn't do. And again, that's that same theme with men's sin versus women's sin. With men, it's big, it's loud, it's explosive, and it's done. With women, it's usually that slow, simmering, drip here, drip there, Chinese water torture until he can't take it anymore.
That's why you really need to take it with a grain of salt. Anytime a woman tells you a story about how poorly she was treated by a man, there's a very good chance it wasn't out of nowhere. There's stuff happening behind the scenes that she's not going to let you in on.
If she doesn't want to tell the whole story, then there's part of the story that will make her look bad, and she knows it.
And she knows.
That's a good point. Yeah, because a lot of them do that too. No, for real. That's oof. I noticed that. A lot of things they're talking about, I've noticed that with, especially the last one I was talking 2 years ago, like 6 years ago. Like, yeah, I think I was 34 or 35. 2020, the end of 2020. But yeah, just doesn't like to say stuff that she did. It's always something that the other person did. You hear that a lot within that victim mentality. Mm. Accountability, because they leave out details, because then those details come in, then they're guilty. And it's like, well, yeah, he is wrong. Let's say he was wrong for what he did, but what did you do to cause that? You know, you got to think about these things when you talk to women, and women when you talk to men as well. Like, that's just, oof.
That, yeah.
One of the big advantages for doing that is that she can use that to get out of a relationship or even a marriage that she doesn't want to be a part of. She can send out that slow dripping over time until she gets the man to explode and overreact, and then say, oh, look at that, he's abusive, I need to get out of this for my safety. It gets her out of the relationship and back into the game where she can find something better, but it does it in a way where her own conscience feels clear. It also protects her reputation. So that whole scenario, if a woman wants to get out, it's a win-win-win for her. The last form of punishment, punishing people for calling them out on their sin. Not only do women enforce toxic positivity with others, they demand it for themselves. They punish people who say anything negative about them, even if it's true or even if it's a rebuke of sin, doesn't matter. Again, that's because of that instinctive survival reaction of, I need to keep my reputation clean.
That's crazy.
If there's an accusation made against me, that would tarnish my image and that might get me pushed outside. So it's like women have a tougher time receiving rebukes because it feels like it's a threat to her life. And it's a real test of her faith and her trust in God. One that we don't actually explain to women, so they're not aware that that's a test that's happening. And it's not one that we press into and encourage them to push past and genuinely trust God with.
I just find it ironic because often their response to being held accountable for their sin is more overtly sinful than what they were called out for in the first place. I can count on one hand the number of times I called out a man for his poor behavior and he threatened me, he got really aggressive with me or anything like that, right? One hand. But I cannot count the number of times I told a woman that she needed to smarten up about something, and I got a rape threat, I got an assault threat,
Wow.
I got so many different types of threats. It can be absolutely terrifying, the
Yes.
things that women will conjure up in their head because they're upset that you called out their poor behavior.
That's wild, dude. No, that's real. I've seen all that stuff. I was a part of some of that stuff too. That's crazy. Yeah. Man. They saying a lot in this video. That's why I had to do 2 parts, because I wanted to cover the whole thing. That's, man. I seen this stuff, man, for real. Making up all kinds of things, boy.
Yeah, they get captured by that survival instinct to keep their image and their reputation clean. I had an idea that, like, once we started looking at women's sin, we would find some stuff But like when you say stuff like that, it's like that gives me chills.
Yeah.
Women resist this part of discipleship much harder than men do. They bite back when you try to hold them accountable for things to a degree that men typically don't. Men will oftentimes just take it on the chin. That's why accountability groups and stuff are decently respectful and orderly. Men go along with it. There's this idea that, well, we as men don't really need to do anything to hold women accountable. That's something that women need to do for each other. The problem is that when you just leave women to their own devices, one woman will try to hold the others accountable in a scriptural way, and the one receiving it will rally the rest of the group to shadow ban the one who's doing it from the group.
Yep.
And so you end up ostracized and you're on the outside. And the other girls know that that's going to happen. They know that once they get labeled as, oh, she's the one that's not nice to us, she says stuff that doesn't make us feel very good, they are not going to be a part of that group anymore. Not in any real sense. You know, there might be a sort of surface level interaction that they'll have to keep up appearances, but the actual deep connection will be gone. And women don't want that. And so they often are they're just not going to be direct and keep each other accountable.
Sometimes it can even be like a covert threat of like, if the pastor does stick up and be like, okay, you need to stop doing this. It's like, well, okay, maybe I'll reconsider my tithe then. Then the church gets freaked out about calling them out. But another thing that I noticed too is this one is such a pet peeve of mine, is when someone calls a woman out on her sin and she says, well, men do that too.
Yeah.
I know that, but I'm talking to you.
Yeah. Yeah. We've mentioned that a few.
That's real. I don't know how many times that happens, and even men start saying that too. Well, men do stuff too. Like, why do we have to do that? There's a good video I watched from Stephen Darby called Projecting or Reflecting. Whether you like him or not, he passed away, years ago. But I learned a lot from watching his videos. And it's called Projecting or Reflecting. And he should have added in deflecting to that too. Because that's projecting, deflecting are kind of the same, but they're the same means to an end. Or I should say different means or similar means to the same end, like the same result. They love to do that. People love that. And that's why I tell people, like they're talking about that reputation stuff. Because one guy, I've watched him for years, but he talks about reputation's important, takes you to the Bible, the Apocrypha. And it talks about how the reputation amongst like your fellow believers that you're going to fellowship with and, faith in Christ Jesus believers, that it's important to have that reputation. I said, that's the problem right there. That reminds me of when Solomon wrote, and I don't have a problem with Apocrypha like most people do, or however many people do. But I said, that's like when Solomon wrote that book, and I forget which book it is, but I remember that scripture saying, vanity of vanities, all is vanity, says the pastor. That's what that reminded me of. See, when you're so caught up in reputation, that's vanity. Also reminds me of Devil's Advocate.
Vanity. Definitely my favorite sin.
Vanity. Definitely his favorite sin is what he said. You got to think about these things that people are saying, man. We're almost done here.
Few times on this channel, it's either you're a terrible person, how dare you, or you obviously hate women, shaming and all that, or it's a deflection. Yeah, but men. There's all types of tactics and methods that women have to try to get the attention off of themselves. Christians are vaguely aware that this stuff happens. We just sort of watch it happen and say nothing. That part of it is distressing to me. We should probably do something about that. Hey guys, this episode ended up going a little long, so we're cutting it in half right here, and we'll put out the other half in a couple weeks. So subscribe and check back if you want to see that. For now, go watch another video or get out of here. Peace.
That's a good video. I guess they got another half. I did not know that. I have to check that one out too, because I had to split this one up because I'm talking, they're talking. I wanted to mainly listen to them talk and interject here or there. But yeah, that's a good video. I'm gonna put the link for their description I'm sorry, the link for their channel in the description. Yeah, that's real, man. We got to think about these things, and things need to be addressed. I know it says if you judge yourself, no one can judge you. But it also says to examine ourselves daily. So that judging yourself, that examining yourself, and it says to judge with righteous judgment, not by appearance. You have to do all this according to God's righteousness. It's all about honoring God's righteousness. God Almighty, not for Satan is the God of this world. Not that one. No, 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 no. Because he's unrighteous and our God is righteous, holy, all that. Yeah, so stuff that we need to think about, we need to be open to correction is the most important thing. If you're not open to correction, then there's really no hope for you. But this was the end of my part two. They got a part two to this. So I may do that one another time. I'll have to look into it. I didn't want these to run long, but it was a 40-minute video, so I tried to split it up, because people don't like long videos. I do, but other people don't. So yeah, may the Lord continue to bless us all the way we need to be blessed. And God willing, I will catch y'all later. I might be doing another one pretty soon here, or maybe just wait a day or so. We'll see. But yeah, until next time.